Crimson lightning painted the void as the Starfall, flagship of the Terran Republic, tore through a swarm of Krill bioships. Explosions bloomed like malevolent flowers across its hull, each blast a death knell echoing in the cramped corridors. Inside, amidst the chaos, Ilara Vane, a young medic, clutched a small bundle, her newborn son, Kai. His cries, though muffled by the roar of battle, were a defiant symphony against the impending doom. The command came: abandon ship. Ilara, knowing there was no escape for her, managed to strap Kai into a damaged escape pod, her tears freezing on his tiny face. She whispered a prayer, a desperate plea to the uncaring cosmos, and launched the pod into the swirling nebula. The escape pod, battered and sparking, careened through the Xylos Nebula, a region shrouded in myth and feared by even the bravest starfarers. Legends spoke of dragons, ancient and powerful creatures who guarded the secrets of the nebula. Few believed the tales, dismissing them as folklore born of radiation-induced hallucinations. But the dragons were real, and one, a colossal emerald dragon named Ignis, sensed the pod's desperate trajectory. Her eyes, pools of molten gold, narrowed as she intercepted the tiny vessel, its metallic shell scorched and breached. She felt a flicker of curiosity, an emotion long dormant in her ancient heart. Inside the pod, Kai, miraculously alive, whimpered. Ignis carefully peeled back the mangled metal, revealing the human infant. His skin was pale, almost translucent, his dark hair a stark contrast against the tattered blanket. He looked impossibly fragile, a creature utterly out of place in the harsh, unforgiving environment of the nebula. But something about him, the sheer tenacity of his survival, resonated within her. An echo of a forgotten promise, a flicker of hope in a dying universe. She had seen countless stars extinguished, entire civilizations crumble. Could this tiny spark rekindle the flame? The decision was instantaneous. Ignoring the ancient laws of her kind, the isolation they had embraced for millennia, Ignis cradled the human child in her massive claws. His tiny hand grasped one of her scales, a gesture of trust that pierced through her hardened exterior. She would raise him, protect him, teach him the ways of the dragons. She would mold him into something more. But even as she soared back towards her hidden eyrie, nestled deep within the heart of a dying star, a chilling premonition settled upon her. Kai's destiny was intertwined with a darkness far greater than the Krill, a darkness that threatened to consume not just the galaxy, but the very fabric of reality itself. The abandoned human baby, raised by dragons, would face a trial unlike any other. Xylos, the nebula Ignis called home, was a paradox. Born from the death throes of colossal stars, it was a graveyard teeming with iridescent life. The remnants of stellar giants painted the cosmic canvas with strokes of violet, crimson and gold, illuminating bizarre flora that pulsed with bioluminescent energy. Gravity defied logic here, with asteroid chains dancing in intricate patterns and swirling vortexes of cosmic dust acting as natural shields. It was a harsh, beautiful and utterly alien ecosystem, perfectly suited to the dragons who had made it their sanctuary. Ignis, despite her imposing size and formidable power, carried a deep sorrow etched into her ancient heart. Centuries ago, her clutch of dragon eggs had been stolen by poachers, driven by greed and the insatiable demand for dragon scales on the galactic black market. The loss had hardened her, turning her into a recluse, a guardian of the nebula who shunned all contact with the outside world. Until Kai. His arrival was a cosmic anomaly, a chance at redemption, a reason to break the self-imposed exile. She vowed to protect him from the horrors that had plagued her past, to nurture him into a being of strength and compassion. Kai grew up in the heart of the eyrie, a city carved into the living rock of a colossal asteroid. The dragons, initially wary of the human pup, soon warmed to him. They marveled at his quick wit, his insatiable curiosity, his unwavering loyalty. They taught him their ways, the language of the stars, the art of aerial combat, the ancient history of their kind. He learned to ride the thermals on makeshift wings, his laughter echoing through the canyons. He learned to read the shifting patterns of the nebula, predicting weather patterns with uncanny accuracy. He was an anomaly, a human raised as a dragon, but he was also family. One dragon in particular took a special interest in Kai's training, Obsidian, a brooding, battle-scarred warrior with scales as black as night. He had lost his own rider, a young dragoness, to the krill long ago, and saw in Kai a chance to avenge her death. He pushed Kai harder than the others, demanding perfection, instilling in him a relentless drive to succeed. "Weakness is a luxury we cannot afford," he would growl, his voice like grinding stone. But beneath his gruff exterior, Obsidian cared deeply for Kai, seeing in him the potential to become a true hero, a savior of the galaxy. He knew better than anyone the darkness that lurked beyond the nebula, the horrors that awaited Kai in the wider universe. His initial motivation was driven by revenge. But his ultimate goal, which became a promise to the deceased, was to prepare the abandoned human baby for what was to come. Years passed. Kai, now a young man, excelled in his dragon training, but during a routine patrol beyond the Xylos Nebula, he stumbled upon a wrecked krill bioship, its data core miraculously intact. As he probed its corrupted files, a chilling message flashed across the screen. "Target Ignis, asset retrieval, Dragon Hybrid Project initiated." The truth slammed into him like a supernova. He wasn't just a random survivor. He was created. The revelation hit Kai like a physical blow. Dragon Hybrid Project. He replayed the message in his mind, the words searing into his consciousness. He was a weapon, not a ward. Ignis, his mother, had been manipulated. He raced back to the eyrie, his heart a frantic drum against his ribs. He found Ignis overlooking the nebula, her emerald scales shimmering in the starlight. He had to tell her, but the words caught in his throat, choked by a sudden wave of doubt. "Ignis," he began, his voice barely a whisper. "I found something. On a krill wreck." Ignis turned, her golden eyes filled with warmth. "What is it, Kai?" He hesitated, his gaze dropping to the asteroid floor. They called me a Dragon Hybrid Project, said you were the asset." Ignis remained silent for a long moment, her expression unreadable. The air crackled with unspoken tension. Finally she spoke, her voice low and heavy. "It is partially true." She recounted a forgotten chapter of the war against the krill, a desperate Terran initiative to create hybrid warriors, beings with the strength of dragons and the adaptability of humans. She had been captured, experimented on, her DNA harvested, but the project was deemed a failure, deemed unethical. The embryos were destroyed, or so she thought. "They must have salvaged one," she finished, her voice laced with pain. "I never knew until I found you." Kai felt a surge of anger, betrayal warring with the love he held for Ignis. "So I am just a weapon to you? A lab rat?" Ignis stepped forward, her massive frame casting a long shadow. "Never. You are my son, Kai. The krill sought to control you, to weaponize you, but I raised you as my own, instilled in you the values they sought to destroy. Your destiny is your own, not theirs." Obsidian appeared, his black scales glinting in the dim light. "The krill will come for him, Ignis," he growled. "Now that they know he exists, they will stop at nothing to reclaim their creation." He turned to Kai, his gaze piercing and intense. "You have a choice, human. Remain here, a prisoner in your own existence, or embrace your destiny and fight back. The galaxy needs you, whether you were born of science or sorcery." Kai looked from Ignis to Obsidian, their faces etched with concern and determination. He was torn, caught between his love for his dragon family and the need to understand his origins, to define his own path. He knew what he had to do. "I will fight," he declared, his voice ringing with newfound resolve. "I will find out who I am, and I will make sure the Krill pay for what they have done." Before Kai could solidify any strategy, the piercing shriek of alarm klaxons ripped through the fragile tranquility, announcing imminent doom. Krill bioships, an armada unlike any seen before, swarmed from the nebula's inky depths, their chitinous carapaces reflecting a ghastly light. Xylos, the ancient dragon haven, was no longer safe. It was a battlefield. The Krill, ignoring all perimeter defenses, advanced with chilling precision towards the heart of the Eyrie. This wasn't merely a random attack. It was a calculated, targeted incursion. Ignis unleashed a defiant roar, a thunderous wave of sound that reverberated through the asteroid canyons, shaking the very foundations of their home. "Eyrie to battle stations! We will defend our home at all costs!" Dragons, young and old, responded without hesitation, scrambling to their designated positions, their eyes burning with righteous fury. Kai, his heart a battleground between the burning desire to unearth the truth of his origin and the unwavering duty to safeguard his family, paused for a breath. Then he donned his magnificent dragon-forged armor, the cool metal a comforting weight against his skin, and joined the ranks of the defenders. The ensuing conflict unfolded as a terrifying maelstrom of fire and unyielding ferocity. Krill bioships, spitting gouts of corrosive plasma, engaged the dragons in a desperate swirling dance of death, a ballet of destruction among the stars. The Eyrie, once a sanctuary of serenity and peace, was swiftly transformed into a brutal war zone, its age-old stones bearing the fresh scars of explosive impacts. Kai, wielding his ancestral Terran blade with unmatched skill, moved with a blistering speed and savage grace that defied his human physiology. He carved a path through the Krill warriors, each precise strike fueled by an inferno of rage and an overwhelming need to keep his loved ones safe. Yet the Krill were relentless, their sheer numbers proving insurmountable. They hammered at the defenses, creating breaches in the walls of the Eyrie, flooding the city's heart with their nightmarish forms. With growing dread gnawing at his insides, Kai battled towards Ignis, his heart a frantic drum against his ribs. He found her locked in a desperate struggle with a monstrous Krill commander, its razor-sharp chitinous claws dripping with deadly venom. Ignis, valiant though she was, showed signs of faltering, her magnificent scales marred by deep gashes and bleeding profusely. As Kai watched in helpless horror, the Krill commander unleashed a devastating energy blast, sending Ignis spiraling towards the ground. In that instant, he knew he had to act. He had to choose. His destiny was no longer a whisper. It was a deafening roar. Xylos was on the precipice of annihilation, and he was the only one who could prevent it. With a primal roar, Kai surged towards the Krill commander, his Terran blade singing through the air. The Krill commander, its multifaceted eyes gleaming with malevolent intelligence, turned its attention from Ignis to the new threat. It raised its venom-dripping claws, ready to strike. Kai knew he was outmatched in terms of brute strength, but he possessed a speed and agility the Krill could not match. He danced around the commander's attacks, his blade a blur of silver, finding gaps in its chitinous armor. He managed to sever one of the commander's claws, the appendage falling to the ground with a sickening thud. The Krill commander shrieked in pain and fury, its attacks becoming even more frenzied. Kai knew he couldn't keep this up for long. He needed an opening, a chance to end the fight quickly. As the Krill commander lunged again, Kai saw his opportunity. He ducked under its claws, channeling the energy of Xylos, the power of the dragons, into his blade. With a single precise strike, he plunged his blade into the commander's heart. The Krill commander shuddered, its eyes dimming, and collapsed onto the ground. With the commander defeated, the remaining Krill forces in the area began to falter. The dragons, emboldened by Kai's victory, renewed their attack, driving the invaders back. Slowly but surely, they began to regain control of their home. But the victory was bittersweet. Ignis lay still and silent on the ground, her breathing shallow and ragged. Kai rushed to her side, his heart filled with despair. "Ignis, please don't leave me." Ignis opened her eyes, her golden gaze meeting his. "Kai," she whispered, her voice weak, "you fought bravely. I am proud." A shadow fell over them. Obsidian, his black scales scorched and battered, stood beside them. "The Krill are retreating," he said, his voice grim. "But this is not over. They will return." He looked at Ignis, his eyes filled with sorrow. "She needs healing, and quickly. There is only one place that can help her, the Crystal Caves of Ethel." Kai had heard tales of the Crystal Caves, a legendary place deep within the Xylos Nebula, said to possess the power to heal any wound. But the path to the caves was treacherous, fraught with danger. "I will take her," Kai said, his voice firm. "I will do whatever it takes to save her." Obsidian nodded. "I will gather a team to escort you. But be warned, human. The Krill will be waiting for you. They know what Ignis is to you. They will try to stop you at all costs." As Kai prepared to embark on his perilous journey, a young dragoness named Lyra approached him. Her scales shimmered with a vibrant blue, and her eyes sparkled with determination. "I will go with you, Kai," she said. "Ignis has always been kind to me. I will not let her die." Kai hesitated. He knew the journey would be dangerous, and he didn't want to put Lyra in harm's way, but he also knew that he needed all the help he could get. "Thank you, Lyra," he said. "I would be honored to have you by my side." Obsidian, with his centuries of combat experience, quickly selected a compact yet formidable squad. 2 battle-hardened dragon warriors whose scales rivaled starship armor in strength, their breath weapons capable of vaporizing steel, and the quick-witted Lyra, whose youthful vitality and sharp analytical skills balanced her relative inexperience. With Ignis carefully secured onto a transport sled specifically designed for her immense size and delicate condition, the team bravely ventured into the perilous, uncharted territories of the Xylos Nebula. Kai remained steadfast at the sled's side, his hand gently resting on Ignis's flank, keenly aware of the subtle weakening pulse of her life force, a frail and flickering beacon against the encroaching cosmic darkness. The arduous journey was fraught with escalating dangers that relentlessly tested their skills and resolve. They meticulously navigated asteroid fields as intricate and treacherous as tangled spiderwebs, constantly evading Krill patrol ships that patiently stalked them from the oppressive shadows. They valiantly traversed radiation storms of unimaginable intensity, the searing energy threatening to scorch the very scales from their bones, and faced the ever-present threat of brutal Krill ambushes. The parasitic race single-mindedly determined to reclaim their lost hybrid asset and permanently silence the noble dragon who dared to defy their sinister machinations. Kai's intuition screamed at him that they were being relentlessly hunted. He could almost taste the Krill's presence, a creeping, malevolent whisper that slithered through the recesses of his mind, a constant reminder of the danger that surrounded them. One evening, as the weary team sought refuge in a secluded canyon carved deep within a colossal asteroid, Lyra cautiously approached Kai, her young brow furrowed with a mixture of concern and burgeoning understanding. "Kai," she began, her voice barely above a whisper so as not to disturb the others, "I've been meticulously analyzing the Krill's attack patterns, their movements, their formations, and I've noticed something deeply unsettling. They're not simply trying to recapture Ignis and eliminate us. It's as if they are deliberately herding us, subtly guiding our movements, leading us towards a specific destination. Kai's heart plunged into the icy depths of despair. He had been so narrowly focused on the immediate goal of protecting Ignis and desperately trying to reach the mythical crystal caves that he had failed to consider the chilling possibility that they were blindly walking directly into a carefully constructed trap. "If they are leading us," he asked, his voice laced with growing apprehension, "then where, Lyra, in all the vastness of this cursed nebula, do you believe they intend to lead us?" With a trembling claw, Lyra pointed towards a subtle, almost imperceptible distortion shimmering in the very fabric of the nebula, a barely visible anomaly that flickered erratically in the faint starlight. "There," she whispered, her voice filled with dread. "Towards the Shadow Rift. A legendary and forsaken place where the fundamental laws of reality themselves become unstable, unpredictable, and terrifying." Kai felt a shiver run down his spine. Despite the warmth of his dragon-forged armor, he had heard ancient whispered legends of the Shadow Rift, a terrifying tear in the delicate fabric of space-time, a sinister gateway to unimaginable dimensions and realities far beyond human comprehension. A place teeming with horrors so profound that they could shatter the sanity of even the most seasoned warrior. If the Krill were indeed deliberately leading them towards that accursed location, it could only signify one horrifying possibility. They were meticulously planning to unleash something truly catastrophic upon the galaxy, something that could extinguish all hope and plunge the cosmos into an eternal abyss. He turned to gaze at Ignis, her face ashen and drawn with pain, her usually vibrant scales now dull and lifeless. A harrowing decision weighed heavily upon him, threatening to crush him under its immense burden. Should he continue steadfastly towards the faintly glimmering promise of the crystal caves, desperately clinging to the hope that they could somehow reach them in time to heal Ignis, while knowingly risking a deadly Krill ambush at any moment? Or should he make the agonizing choice to divert their already perilous course, confront the Krill head-on, and attempt to prevent them from unleashing the unspeakable horrors that undoubtedly awaited them within the terrifying depths of the Shadow Rift, potentially dooming Ignis in the process? He locked eyes with Lyra, with Obsidian, with the two stoic dragon warriors, their faces etched with a mixture of bone-deep fatigue and unwavering determination. In that moment, he understood that there was no other choice to be made. The fate of Xylos, perhaps even the entire galaxy, rested upon his shoulders. Summoning every ounce of courage and resolve that he possessed, Kai spoke, his voice resonating with newfound strength and unwavering purpose. "We change course," he declared, his words echoing through the canyon. "We are heading straight for the Shadow Rift." The closer they clawed their way towards the dreaded Shadow Rift, the more oppressive the atmosphere became, pressing down on them with suffocating force. The once vibrant, breathtaking colors of the Xylos Nebula began to drain away, replaced by a nauseating, bruised purple hue that seemed to hungrily devour the very starlight itself. Reality itself became a cruel mockery, warping and twisting around them with increasing malice. Asteroid chains fractured and shattered, only to reform in bizarre, impossible configurations that defied all known laws of physics. Distant stars flickered ominously, teasing them with their light before abruptly winking out of existence altogether, swallowed by the encroaching darkness. The dragons, normally paragons of stoicism and unflappable resolve, grew visibly agitated, their scales bristling with an almost palpable unease as they sensed the deepening corruption of their surroundings. Even Obsidian, the battle-hardened veteran whose spirit had weathered countless wars and unimaginable horrors, seemed to bear a deeper, heavier weight in his ancient eyes, a grim acknowledgement of the impending doom. As they finally neared the gaping maw of the rift itself, a swirling vortex of impenetrable darkness that pulsed with an almost tangible malevolence, a living embodiment of cosmic dread, they were met with a horrifying ambush. Krill bioships, numbering not in the dozens, but in the hundreds, materialized from the swirling shadows with terrifying speed, their chitinous hulls gleaming with a wicked predatory intent that promised only death and destruction. This was no mere skirmish, no desperate delaying tactic. This was a full-scale assault, a meticulously planned and ruthlessly executed attempt to prevent them from reaching the Shadow Rift at all costs, to silence the last vestiges of hope that dared to challenge their dominance. The Dragon Warriors, fueled by centuries of ingrained defiance and an unyielding determination to protect their home, unleashed deafening roars that echoed across the void, unleashing torrents of searing fire and blinding plasma in a desperate attempt to hold back the tide. But the Krill were relentless, their numbers seemingly infinite, their attacks growing more ferocious with each passing moment. Kai, fighting valiantly alongside his dragon allies, weaving through the chaos with a speed and agility born of both human ingenuity and dragon training, felt a chilling tendril of despair begin to coil around his heart. They were undeniably outnumbered, hopelessly outgunned, and steadily, inexorably being pushed back towards the gaping maw of the Shadow Rift itself, towards the unimaginable horrors that awaited them within its fathomless depths. Then, with the suddenness and brutality of a lightning strike, disaster descended upon them. A stray Krill plasma blast, narrowly missing Kai by a hair's breadth, slammed into the transport sled with devastating force, severing the vital energy conduit that sustained Ignis's fragile life support systems. The sled lurched violently, throwing sparks and sending up a shower of shattered components before finally tipping over, sending Ignis crashing onto the jagged asteroid surface. Kai, his heart seizing in abject terror, rushed to her side, his mind reeling, his every instinct screaming in protest. He desperately fought to reconnect the severed conduit, his fingers fumbling with the damaged components, but it was to no avail. The damage was far too extensive, the delicate machinery utterly beyond repair in the heat of battle. Ignis's breathing grew increasingly shallow and labored, her once vibrant golden eyes dimming with each passing second, the light of her indomitable spirit slowly fading away like a dying ember. He knew, with a sickening, gut-wrenching certainty that defied all reason, that she was truly dying, slipping away from him into the cold embrace of the void. "Ignis!" he cried out, his voice raw and broken with unimaginable anguish, his words lost in the cacophony of battle. "Please, please, hold on! I'll fix this! I promise!" The words tasted like ash, a hollow mockery whispered in the face of an inevitable, heart-wrenching demise. As Ignis's magnificent life force finally flickered and faded into the oppressive darkness, a blinding, all-consuming rage erupted within Kai, momentarily eclipsing his overwhelming grief, forging a primal, unstoppable need for vengeance. He slowly rose to his full height, his dragon-forged armor gleaming with ominous intensity in the sickly, ethereal light that emanated from the dreaded Shadow Rift, his ancestral Terran blade now clutched tightly in his trembling hand, a potent symbol of both his human heritage and his dragon-enhanced power. He was no longer merely Kai, the orphaned human child lovingly raised by dragons in the secluded sanctuary of Xylos. He had been transformed into something far greater, something ancient and inherently powerful, a force of nature unleashed upon a galaxy teetering on the brink of annihilation. He unleashed a primal roar, a sound that transcended language itself, a sound that echoed across the ravaged battlefield, a sound that promised agonizing death and eternal damnation to every single Krill that dared to stand in his path. Yet even as he surged forward, propelled by an unquenchable fury and a desperate need to make the Krill pay for their heinous crimes, a nagging flicker of doubt, insidious and persistent, lingered in the darkest recesses of his mind. He was, after all, still just one man, a single, solitary figure, standing against hundreds of heavily armed Krill bioships, and whatever unspeakable horrors awaited him within the chaotic, unpredictable depths of the Shadow Rift. What difference could he possibly hope to make against such overwhelming odds? What chance did he truly have of surviving, let alone emerging victorious? Then, as if summoned by some unknown force, a vivid memory suddenly surfaced from the depths of his subconscious, a poignant flashback to his formative years spent in the protected embrace of the Skyfire Eyrie. He was just a clumsy, headstrong young boy, tirelessly struggling to master the complex and demanding art of dragonflight, falling repeatedly from the towering cliffs, his fledgling wings aching with exhaustion, his youthful spirit bruised and battered by countless failures. Ignis, her golden eyes radiating an unwavering patience and gentle encouragement, had always been there to watch over him, to offer words of wisdom and support. "You must never give up, little one," she had said to him, her voice resonating with both gentle warmth and unshakable conviction. "The very essence of the sky already resides within you, waiting to be awakened. You only need to have faith in yourself and to trust in the power that lies dormant within." With a fierce shake of his head, Kai forcefully dispelled the lingering tendrils of doubt that threatened to drag him down into the abyss of despair. He was not alone in this fight. He had never truly been alone. He was surrounded by loyal allies, steadfast friends, a loving and supportive family who believed in him with every fiber of their being. He quickly scanned the desolate battlefield, his keen eyes searching for the familiar faces that gave him strength. Obsidian, his black scales shimmering with defiance despite the grievous wounds he had sustained, was valiantly holding back a seemingly endless swarm of Krill warriors, his potent breath weapon incinerating them by the dozens with each thunderous blast. Lyra, displaying a surprising level of cunning and bravery, was using her sharp intellect and nimble reflexes to outmaneuver the lumbering enemy, skillfully disabling their advanced weapon systems with a series of precise, perfectly timed strikes. The two stoic dragon warriors, though visibly wounded and weary from the relentless fighting, continued to fight on with unwavering courage and unwavering loyalty, their defiant roars echoing across the void, a potent challenge to the encroaching darkness that threatened to engulf them all. They were all willingly risking their lives to protect him, to honor Ignis's memory. A testament to selfless love and unwavering belief, fueled his resolve. They were all risking their lives to safeguard the very principles she held dear, the very principles that he now understood he was destined to champion. He steeled himself, closing his eyes once more, focusing his turbulent mind with every ounce of his willpower. He reached out with every fiber of his being, not just to the fading echoes of his human heritage, but to the raw, untamed energy of Xylos, to the ancient and formidable power of the dragons that now coursed through his very blood, merging with his own life force. He felt a tangible surge of strength coursing through his weary veins, revitalizing his battered muscles, sharpening his dulled senses to a razor's edge, and replacing the gnawing despair with a potent, revitalizing determination. More importantly, he felt a burning surge of unwavering hope igniting within the depths of his battered heart, pushing back the encroaching shadows of doubt and fear, illuminating the path that lay ahead. He was not simply a weapon callously forged in a sterile laboratory, not merely a failed experiment discarded by heartless scientists. He was Kai, the unique and irreplaceable dragon hybrid, the vital bridge between two vastly different worlds, the unlikely but undeniably destined savior of a galaxy teetering precariously on the very brink of utter annihilation. And he vowed, with every fiber of his being, that he would not falter in his sacred duty. He would not break under the immense pressure that threatened to crush him. He would fight on, against all conceivable odds, until his very last breath escaped his lips and his heart ceased to beat. With a renewed sense of unwavering purpose, with every single ounce of his being now laser-focused on the monumental task that lay before him, he turned to face the swirling vortex of the shadow rift, its chaotic energies swirling like a malevolent storm. He gazed directly towards the very heart of the encroaching darkness, towards the inevitable and terrifying confrontation with his ultimate destiny, a battle that would determine not only his own fate, but the fate of countless others. He would face whatever unimaginable horrors awaited him within that chaotic, unpredictable abyss, and he would emerge victorious or die trying, even if it meant sacrificing everything he held dear. He would do it for Ignis, the dragon mother who had loved him unconditionally, who had taught him the true meaning of courage and compassion, and who had sacrificed everything to protect him from the darkness that now threatened to consume them all. He would do it for Xylos, the hidden sanctuary that had sheltered him, nurtured him, and given him a true home when he had nowhere else to turn in the vast, uncaring expanse of the cosmos. He would do it for the entire galaxy, for all the innocent beings whose lives hung precariously in the balance, for all those who had placed their faith in him as their last, best hope. And most importantly, he would do it for himself, to finally prove, once and for all, that he was far more than just a weapon to be wielded and discarded, that he was truly worthy of the boundless love and selfless sacrifice that had been so freely bestowed upon him. As if sensing his unwavering resolve, Lyra cautiously approached, her shimmering blue scales reflecting the eerie glow of the shadow rift. Her youthful eyes filled with both worry for his safety and unwavering determination to stand by his side. "What's the plan, Kai?" she asked, her voice barely audible above the deafening roar of the chaotic energies swirling around them. Kai turned to meet her gaze, a faint but genuine smile finally gracing his lips, chasing away the lingering shadows of despair. "We're going to shut that rift down, Lyra," he said, his voice now ringing with newfound conviction. "For good." "What's the plan, Kai?" Lyra's voice cut through the din, a beacon of hope amidst the encroaching darkness. Kai met her gaze, a spark of determination flickering in his eyes. "We're going to shut that rift down," he stated firmly. "For good." He knew what he had to do. He couldn't destroy the rift, not alone. The Krill wanted something from the other side, a power they couldn't access on their own. He would give it to them, but on his terms. He turned to Obsidian, his face grim. "I need you to create a diversion. Draw as many of those bioships away from the rift as you can. Give me some space to work." Obsidian nodded, his black scales gleaming. "It will be done," he rumbled. "But be warned, human. This may be the last stand." With a deafening roar, he and the dragon warriors launched themselves into the fray, drawing the Krill's attention away from Kai and Lyra. Kai and Lyra raced towards the shadow rift, dodging plasma blasts and Krill fighters. The closer they got, the more chaotic and distorted reality became. Gravity shifted erratically, making it difficult to maintain their balance. The air crackled with strange energies, raising the hairs on their skin. But they pressed on, driven by the unwavering need to stop the Krill. As they reached the edge of the rift, a monstrous figure emerged from the darkness. It was the Krill overlord, a being of immense power and malice, its chitinous body pulsating with corrupt energy. "You cannot stop us, hybrid," it hissed, its voice a grating rasp. "The power of the shadow rift will be ours." Kai drew his blade, the metal singing with barely contained energy. "Not if I have anything to say about it," he retorted. This ends here. The battle was fierce and brutal. The Krill overlord unleashed blasts of dark energy, warping reality around them. Kai dodged and weaved, using his dragon-enhanced speed and agility to avoid the attacks. Lyra, using her intellect and technical skills, hacked into the overlord's systems, disrupting its attacks, creating openings for Kai to strike. But the Overlord was too powerful. It knocked Lyra to the ground, leaving her vulnerable. Kai knew he had to act fast. He focused all his energy, channeling the power of Xylos, the spirit of the dragons, the courage of humanity, into his blade. He charged towards the Overlord, his blade raised high. For Ignis, he plunged his blade into the Overlord's heart. The Overlord screamed, a sound that echoed across the dimensions and exploded in a shower of corrupt energy. The shadow rift began to collapse, the chaotic energies imploding inwards. He grabbed Lyra, leaping towards the collapsing rift. Time. He reached out to them with his mind, sending a silent farewell, a heartfelt expression of profound gratitude for their unwavering loyalty and ultimate sacrifice. Then, with a cataclysmic implosion that shook the very foundations of reality, the shadow rift shuddered, convulsed, and finally collapsed in upon itself, sealing itself shut for eternity. The source of the Krill's insidious power had been severed, the encroaching darkness banished from Xylos forevermore. Kai and Lyra plummeted back to the ravaged asteroid surface, battered, bruised, and utterly exhausted, but miraculously alive. The remaining Krill forces, now completely leaderless and utterly demoralized by the sudden loss of their overlord, scattered in panicked disarray, fleeing into the darkest corners of the nebula, leaving behind a desolate battlefield littered with the wreckage of their failed invasion and the silent testament to their ultimate defeat. The surviving dragons emerged from the smoke-filled chaos, their triumphant roars echoing across the scarred landscape, their voices a symphony of victory and profound relief. Obsidian, his magnificent black scales bearing the marks of countless battles and fresh scorch marks from the intense conflict, approached Kai, his ancient eyes now radiating a warmth and pride that belied his gruff exterior. "You did it, human," he said, his voice unusually soft and filled with genuine respect. "You saved us all, and in doing so you have honored Ignis's memory in a way that words cannot possibly express." Kai looked at him, at Lyra, at the remaining dragon warriors who had fought so valiantly by his side, his heart swelling with a complex mixture of overwhelming gratitude and a profound sense of personal loss. He had indeed saved Xylos from certain destruction, but he had also lost Ignis, his beloved mother and mentor, in the process, a sacrifice that would forever leave a deep and unfillable void within his soul. In the long aftermath of the brutal battle, Kai dedicated himself to rebuilding the shattered Eyrie, determined to honor the memory of Ignis by creating a lasting sanctuary for all dragons, a haven where they could live in enduring peace and harmony, forever free from the looming threat of the Krill and any other forces that sought to exploit or destroy them. He knew, with a chilling certainty born of bitter experience, that the darkness would always be out there, lurking patiently in the shadows, constantly searching for any opportunity to reclaim what it had lost and to once again plunge the galaxy into chaos and despair. But he also knew, with an unshakable conviction that resonated deep within his very being, that as long as there were those who were willing to stand up and fight for what was right, as long as there were courageous individuals willing to sacrifice everything in the name of freedom and justice, there would always be hope, however faint it may seem. Kai remained on Xylos, embracing his newfound role as both a guardian and a protector, a living bridge between the often divided worlds of humanity and dragonkind, and a potent symbol of unwavering unity and unyielding courage for a galaxy that desperately needed both to survive. And so, the abandoned human baby who had been raised by dragons, the genetically engineered hybrid warrior who had defied his creator's sinister intentions, the unlikely savior who had risen from the ashes of despair to become a beacon of hope for all those who yearned for a better tomorrow, had finally found his true place in the vast tapestry of the cosmos. He lifted his gaze towards the star-studded heavens, remembering Ignis's empowering words that had guided him through his darkest hours. The essence of the sky already resides within you, little one. You only need to open your heart, embrace your potential, and allow that extraordinary power to soar. He had finally found that power within himself. He had embraced it without reservation. And he had become the hero that the galaxy so desperately needed, not because he was born to greatness, but because he had chosen to rise above his limitations and fight for what he believed in. But his remarkable story doesn't end here.